The rain had started softly, the kind that felt more like a whisper than a warning, blurring the city lights and turning the pavement into mirrors. Daniel Harris tightened his grip on the steering wheel as he drove his aging sedan through downtown, his mind drifting between tomorrow's bills and the half-asleep voice of his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, who had begged him not to be late tonight. Being a single dad meant living with constant clocks ticking in his head, every second divided between survival and love. He had just finished a long shift delivering medical supplies when he noticed her. She stood near the grand entrance of a luxury hotel, dressed in white, her wedding gown soaked at the hem, mascara streaked down her cheeks. People passed her by, some staring, some pretending not to see. She was crying openly, shaking, as if the world had collapsed and she had nowhere left to stand. Daniel slowed without thinking. He pulled over, hazard lights blinking, and stepped out into the rain. "Miss, are you okay?" he asked gently, keeping a respectful distance. Up close, she looked even more fragile, her hands trembling as she clutched the fabric of her dress like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She looked at him with wide, desperate eyes. "I can't do this," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I can't marry him." Daniel didn't ask who him was. He didn't ask why she was wearing a wedding dress on a rainy street. He only saw a human being in pain. "Do you need a ride?" he said. "Somewhere safe." For a moment, she hesitated, glancing back at the towering hotel doors behind her, where muffled music and laughter spilled into the night. Then she nodded, as if surrendering to a decision she had already made in her heart. "Please," she said, "just get me away from here." She climbed into his car, gathering her dress awkwardly, the scent of expensive perfume mixing with the familiar smell of coffee and old upholstery. Daniel handed her a clean towel from the back seat, one he kept for Lily after rainy school days. "I'm Daniel," he said as he drove off. "Emily," she replied, pressing the towel to her face, trying to stop the tears that kept coming anyway. They drove in silence at first, the rain filling the space between them. Finally, Emily spoke. "I was supposed to be married tonight," she said, almost laughing at the absurdity of it. "Everything was perfect. The venue, the guests, the speeches. Everyone kept telling me how lucky I was." Daniel nodded, listening. "But I felt like I was drowning," she continued. "I realized I was about to promise my life to someone who only loved the idea of me. The image, the empire we would build together. Not me." Her voice cracked again. "So I ran." He didn't judge her. He didn't offer cliches. "Sometimes running is the bravest thing you can do," he said quietly. When he asked where she wanted to go, she admitted she didn't know. Hotels felt too obvious, too easy to be found. Without overthinking it, Daniel offered his small apartment. "It's nothing fancy," he warned. "Just me and my daughter. But it's safe." Emily looked at him, surprised. "You'd do that? You don't even know me." Daniel shrugged. "I know what it's like to feel trapped. And I know what it's like to need help." That night changed everything. Lily was already asleep when they arrived, her favorite stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. Emily watched from the doorway as Daniel gently brushed his daughter's hair from her face, his expression softening in a way that made Emily's chest ache. She hadn't seen tenderness like that in years, not the real kind that expected nothing in return. Over tea at the small kitchen table, Emily finally told him the truth. She wasn't just a bride. She was a billionaire heiress, CEO of a global tech empire she had inherited and expanded after her parents' deaths. The wedding had been as much a business alliance as a romantic one. Her fiancé was powerful, charming, and controlling. Leaving him meant legal battles, public humiliation, and the risk of losing everything she had built. Daniel absorbed this quietly, unfazed. "Money doesn't make decisions easier," he said. "It just changes the stakes." Emily stayed for one night that turned into several days. She helped Lily with homework, cooked simple meals with Daniel, and for the first time in her adult life, experienced a routine that didn't revolve around boardrooms or bodyguards. No one asked her for anything. No one tried to manage her. She could breathe. Meanwhile, the world outside exploded. News outlets ran headlines about the missing bride. Social media speculated wildly. Emily's phone buzzed constantly with messages she refused to answer. Daniel never pushed her. He just created space. One evening, as Lily slept, Emily confessed, I don't know who I am without all of it. The company, the expectations. I've been strong for so long, I don't remember how to be anything else. Daniel looked at his hands, rough from work. After my wife died, he said softly, I thought I'd never be enough on my own. Every day felt like failing Lily in some new way. But then I realized something. Being enough isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. The words stayed with Emily. Eventually, reality demanded action. Emily couldn't hide forever. But instead of returning to her old life unchanged, she chose something radical. She faced the fallout head-on, ended the engagement publicly, and stepped down temporarily as CEO, appointing an interim board. The media called it a meltdown. Investors panicked, but Emily felt calmer than she ever had. Through it all, Daniel never asked for anything. He returned to his deliveries, to scraping by, to being a dad. Emily noticed this more than any grand gesture. When she offered to help him financially, he declined gently. I appreciate it, he said. But I want Lily to grow up knowing we earned our life, not borrowed it. That humility cracked something open in Emily. She began to see how isolated her wealth had made her, how every relationship had come with invisible strings. With Daniel, there were none. Months passed. Emily rebuilt her company with a new vision, focusing on ethical practices and employee well-being. She used her influence to create scholarships and support single parents. Quietly, she bought the building Daniel lived in, ensuring he and Lily would never be displaced, without ever telling him it was her. Their bond deepened slowly, naturally. Weekend walks, shared dinners, conversations that stretched late into the night. Lily grew attached to Emily, calling her Miss M, and holding her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. One afternoon, as they sat in the park watching Lily play, Daniel finally asked, "What made you get in my car that night?" Emily smiled, eyes distant. "You didn't look at me like I was a headline. You looked at me like I was human." He nodded. "You saved yourself," he said. "I just drove." She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "No," she replied. "You showed me a life I didn't know was possible." Their love wasn't loud or flashy. It didn't need to be. It was built on quiet moments, on shared values, on mutual respect. When Emily eventually returned fully to her role as CEO, Daniel stood beside her, not as a trophy or a secret, but as a partner. The world was shocked when she introduced him, a single dad with calloused hands and a steady heart. As for the wedding dress, Emily donated it to a charity that helped women start